Welcome to Luminex Whiteboard Wednesday. I'm Art Wiers. I serve on the core leadership team of the region of the Great Lakes in the Reformed Church in America. I'd like to share with you something I learned from Ed Stetzer, president of Lifeway Research, some time ago that reminds me of how important it is to remember that outreach is not only critical to a church, but there's a lot of things within the church itself that actually diminishes or destroys our efforts in outreach. Also, I think of a good friend, Kevin Harney, who I worked with for a while some years ago, who would remind me on a regular basis that the fire that goes out most quickly in the life of a church is the fire for outreach. But Ed Stetzer says this. He says there's three things churches love that kill outreach. And the first is, he says, there's too many churches that love past culture more than their current context. And when he says that, he would put it this way. He says the 1950s would come back. There are many churches that are really ready for that, but they're not at all ready to deal with their current context. And that diminishes, if not destroys, their effort at outreach because they move back into the corners and they couch and they do not deal with where they really are right now. The second thing he talks about is that churches love their comfort more than their mission. And he would say that your church probably needs to be less focused on what makes it happy and more focused on what pleases Jesus. I wonder how many times in the boardroom of your church you actually have that discussion. Is this really pleasing to our Lord, the decisions we're making? Or are the decisions we're making more about helping our people be happy, keeping them in a happy place? The third thing that Stetzer would talk about is that churches tend to love traditions even more than their children. This is really pointed, kind of painful, but as I work throughout our region with lots of churches, I have to admit, I see this at times, that churches will persist in using methods that are not only relevant to the current culture, but don't even relate to their own children or grandchildren, and thereby diminish and even destroy attempts at outreach. And so I would just ask you to consider as a leader what's happening in this realm, in the ministry that you're responsible for. Are you really willing to take a hard look at, are we going to embrace our current context and work in outreach in that context? Are we going to embrace our mission rather than constantly move towards our own comfort? And are we really going to focus on how do we relate and connect with our children and grandchildren's generation so that we can reach them with the love of Christ? I hope this is helpful, and may God bless you on your journey.